Welcome back into One-on-One. My name is David Moore. Joining alongside me is head women's soccer coach Colin Carmichael. Colin, thanks so much for coming out.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep, we were talking a little bit before this about the SMU game yesterday and what a crazy finish that was. What's your reaction about that?
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction was disappointment, but obviously I think when you're in sports long enough, you're going to experience some highs and lows like that. You were asking me, had we experienced anything like that before? And the closest we've come on our end is I think we scored a late goal, 7 seconds left at Iowa State to win, and we were ecstatic about that. And I guess the only saving grace on this one, it wasn't to lose the game, it was to tie it. And so it felt a little bit like a loss, but, it was, I guess if you were neutral, it was really exciting. We'll go there.
But definitely not a bad tie, though. SMU had only lost one game going into it. Going into conference play now, does that give you a little bit of excitement going in among players?
Yeah, it's interesting, because of the way the game ended. If it had just been a normal tie, I think most people would have said, wow, that was a really good game. They're a good team, and we played well. Just the way it ended kind of made it bittersweet. But no, today we're a little bit down, but come tomorrow, we'll look back. We're 7-0-2. We're unbeaten. We're nationally ranked and getting ready for conference play, so things could be a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And now a little bit more on your background. You've been with OSU Soccer longer than I've been alive. You've
Way long time.
The inception of the program, 1996.
Yeah.
What is that? So you're from Scotland. We were
Yeah.
talking about it outside of Glasgow.
Yep.
How does a guy from Glasgow come to Stillwater, America?
I'll give you the short version because it's been a lot of twists and turns, But yeah, I mean, I was born in Scotland. My whole family are Scottish. And then when I was about 12, my dad was offered a work opportunity in Houston, Texas. And so he brought the family over to Houston. Actually, one of my sisters stayed in Scotland. Me and my other sister came. So I went to high school in Houston. I spent about 5 years there. And it was awesome. Really enjoyed my time. And then I went back to England to play soccer. Because, of course, at that age, I'm going to be a pro player, right? It's easy. And went over there and realized it wasn't quite that easy. So I came back and got a scholarship to play at University of South Alabama. So the year I came back, my family moved back to Scotland. So it's almost like they were trying to get away from me. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, got a scholarship at South Alabama. Stayed there for 7 years. Did my undergrad, did grad school, started coaching. And then Karen Hancock got the head coaching job here at Oklahoma State. She's originally from Tulsa, and we worked together at South Alabama. So I came with her thinking, 3 or 4 years, get some good work experience and, move on. And next thing you know, I got a wife and kids, and Stillwater's home.
Yeah, moving on to Stillwater, you and your wife and your 3 kids have been here a while. How much have you seen Stillwater change from 1996 to now? Because I assume it's a little different back then.
Well, I mean, starting with Oklahoma State and the athletics facilities, I mean, it's night and day. You can't even explain to people how much better it is. And then the town itself, of course, is just, it hadn't exploded quickly, but over those years, it's really different. There's a lot more to do for kids, a lot more shops, a lot more restaurants. It's just gotten better. So, it's now home to me. And I never thought 20 years ago I would say that, but, Stillwater's become my home, and I love the community. It's awesome.
And then when you first came in 1996, how much has the women's program changed from when you started to now? You got Neil Patterson Stadium. How much that it's progressed?
Drastic. We were on an intramural field that sloped from east to west, probably about a 60-degree angle. It was unbelievable. And there was no bleachers. Fans had to bring up lawn chairs like you were at a youth soccer game. No locker rooms. We had walk-on tryouts just to get enough kids on the field, and it was nuts. And we're trying to compete with Nebraska and A&M, who were nationally ranked at the time, and that wasn't pretty, as you can imagine. Fast forward, probably about 10, 12, 15 years ago, we started becoming more competitive. And now, we feel like we've established ourselves as a certainly top 40, top 25 type program year in and year out. And obviously the facility is it's a game changer. That has put us up there with the best in the country. So, the changes have been unbelievable.
And do you feel that the fan turnout has been a lot better now with this new stadium, Neil Patterson Stadium? Have you felt that, especially with the Orange Outlaws as well? They're kind of a new group.
I don't know the numbers because I haven't looked at the stats, but as far as the atmosphere that's generated in the stadium, it's night and day. We have the drum line, we got the Outlaws, we got students, so that's made all the difference. Attendance-wise, it's been a little difficult because we just switched to Thursday games, and I think the Friday games were a big draw for a lot of people. So I don't know as far as statistically if we're up, down, or in between, but I can tell you this, the game day experience and the atmosphere, you can't compare.
Yeah, for sure. And then with the recent passing of Boone Pickens, how much of an impact did Boone Pickens have on the women's program?
Well, I think it's very indirect. He impacted me because when you see what he did for football and other areas of campus, you started thinking, wow, this guy loves his alma mater. He he bleeds orange. And I was fortunate enough to meet Boone a couple of times, and he was always just, you could tell he's a great cowboy. He wanted to know were you winning, and when we won a championship, he'd write a note saying congratulations. So he paid attention, that's for sure. And I think the biggest impact that we see in our program is that he inspired others to help Oklahoma State, and he kind of put us on the map as far as giving went. And now you've got all the, you've got Neil Patterson, you've got the O'Brates, and all these other, the Greenwoods, the Mitchells, all these other great people who are helping different programs. And I'm not sure all that comes about if Boone doesn't get it started. So that's probably the biggest impact on our program.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a whole lot. And then moving to this season, I remember we talked before the Tulsa exhibition game, before anything. We weren't really sure what was going to happen this season. If I had told you at that point, you're going to beat Penn State in Happy Valley, you're going to go undefeated through all non-conference play, what have you thought about that?
Well, of course we would take it, and that's the message to our kids now. Like I said, they're a little bummed about Sunday's game not getting a W, but I think when we set them down Tuesday and we point out all the positives, you're 7-0-2, you're nationally ranked. I think we've scored 24 and given up 5. We beat Penn State, tied SMU, tied OU, beat St. Louis. I mean, these are big games. And so I think when we throw that, when I did that this morning, I was getting prepared for practice tomorrow, I was thinking to myself, I was kind of talking myself out of being down, thinking, wow, we're doing great. And so, we're happy with where we are, and I would have taken it preseason, like you said, in a heartbeat. But now, everything changes. Everybody starts 0-0, and we go into conference play, so we have to get refocused.
Yeah, Jason was actually talking about that yesterday, how everything changes with conference play. What about playing these teams in the Big 12 just changes everything from a game like SMU?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the level, because SMU was really good and Penn State was really good, and I think it's more about the familiarity. The coaches know each other, so we know kind of how to nullify each other, and we have to come up with different ways to beat each other. The kids, a lot of them know each other. We got a ton of Dallas kids. Well, so does Tech, so does Texas, so did TCU. They all know each other, and so there's that little personal rivalry in there. And then just the name. When Oklahoma State plays Tech, it's a big game now. When Texas comes to town, our fans get excited because it's Longhorns, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of that. I think it's the same in most sports. So the intensity just ramps up an extra 10%, but it's exciting. I mean, those are the games we live for.
Speaking of Texas, you're going to do a little tour of Texas here. You're going to go to Lubbock, and then you're going to go to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech, top of the Big 12 right now. Oklahoma State, second in the Big 12. That's a huge matchup. Are the players, what's the energy like for the players? Yeah,
they'll be excited. I mean, today's our off day, so they're recovering right now. But when we show up tomorrow, we'll talk briefly about Sunday, and then we'll move on. We'll close the door and close that chapter and move on and look at Tech, and we'll be excited. Every year we play them, it seems like it's a tie or a double overtime or a 1-goal win either way. And I would imagine it'll be another tight game. I think they're 8-1 or 9-1, and we're 7-0-2, and it just has everything to make it a great matchup. And then Sunday's game in Fort Worth, TCU's 6-3, but their 3 losses are against really top teams, and so we know how good they are as well. So yeah, the schedule makers, there's no easy games in the Big 12, but this might be about as hard as it gets for us.
Yeah, with the TCU game, I saw that TCU played SMU earlier in 1-0, so it'll be kind of very equally matched.
For sure. I mean, when you look on tape, on video, I think all of us are close. West Virginia historically have been head and shoulders above all of us, but I think they're just like everybody. Baylor just tied Southern Cal, who are number 2 in the country. We've started well. Oklahoma beat Arkansas, who just beat North Carolina. So the league's good. I don't think there's any elite team necessarily, but there's a lot of good teams, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that all shakes down.
That was something interesting that we talked about earlier, how like in football, when the team is ranked like number 1 team, like a Clemson, Alabama in college football, they're like, wow, that's a tier above. But we notice in soccer, and women's soccer specifically, there's a lot more parity, because when I asked you about rankings and Oklahoma State being ranked 25th, you said that rankings don't really matter because any team can lose on any given day. Yeah,
there is a pecking order for sure. That the Stanfords of the world and the UCLAs, I mean, those teams are elite, and Duke, the year we played them in the NCAA tournament, what a phenomenal team, So every year you're going to get 3 or 4 teams that are at that level. However, I think when you get to like number 6 through like 70, as we just saw with SMU, they're a really good team. So if we're number 25 and they're 70, there's not much between both teams. So I do think there's a little bit of parity there. I still think the elite programs, they still get the cream of the crop as far as recruits go, and it makes it hard to pass them up. But our sport's funny. On any given day, you can kind of hang in there and get an upset, and so those results tend to happen maybe more than they do in football.
Mm-hmm. And when you talked about recruiting, one of the things I read about is that you kind of changed the recruiting thing and got a lot more players overseas. How has that helped the Cowgirl program?
Yeah, well, what happened years ago when we started the program, after 3 or 4 years, we realized we're not getting the best U.S. kids because we had no tradition, we had no facility. We're in the middle of Oklahoma. We're just trying to get started. So we had to find an alternative way to get good and get competitive. And we were able to talk a bunch of international kids into coming, and they helped us get some wins. And now we don't have as many internationals because, as you can see, we're able to get quality U.S. players. So I like having the international influence on the team. I think there's a different culture soccer-wise. I think there's a different personality, different way of playing, and I think that can be good for your team. But I'm also committed to trying to get, a JC Jones. I want the next JC Jones out of Oklahoma to come to Oklahoma State. We want the next Julia Lenhart out of Dallas to come up and play for us. So we kind of do it all. But yeah, the international kids sort of got us on our way, and that opened the door for us to recruit better U.S. kids.
Mm-hmm. One U.S. kid in particular, well, now she's kind of grown up, AD. You talk about her a little bit.
Unbelievable. Came here from Salina, Kansas, of all places, and recruiting her, you knew she had special talent, but you could not predict the path that she would take and how quickly she'd grow. She was a super talented athlete who we thought had the potential to be very special in goal, but she got good quicker than we could ever have imagined, and it was her drive. I mean, we can take full credit as coaches and all. It's not that. AD was driven from the moment she got here to be the best. Giving up a goal was like her world ended. Mm-hmm. If you were a defender and you didn't track a run and they scored, I felt so sorry for you because you were getting an earful. She was just that passionate and that driven to win and succeed. So to see what she's doing now doesn't surprise me in the least. And I'm so proud of her and so happy for her. The next step, I think, for her and her development would be to earn that starting goalkeeper spot for the U.S., and I wouldn't bet against her.
Mm-hmm. And how does having a World Cup champion that went to Oklahoma State, how does that help the program?
Well, I think it's phenomenal. Our kids that are here now, we want AD to come back, and she will at some point, and I want her to sit down with our team, and I don't necessarily want to hear about the soccer. We want to hear the stories.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear about Alex Morgan and Carly Lloyd and the dynamic and all that stuff. So I think our current players are so proud of her. But I think recruiting-wise, it helps. It's if we're recruiting a goalkeeper and one of their aspirations is to play for the national team, there's a pathway to do that. Through Oklahoma State. If you want to go compete at the World Cup, well, Courtney DK's done it, AD Franch has done it, and I'm pretty sure Kim Rodriguez is going to do it. Mm-hmm. So there's a pathway to get there. And, again, recruiting 10, 15 years ago, we couldn't say that. Now we can go to these elite players and their parents and say, what are your goals and aspirations? Okay, yeah, we can help you make that happen. Here's what we did for these kids.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Kim Rodriguez, she plays for the Mexican international team, has even scored a goal for them.
Yeah.
Having a Mexican international on the team, does that boost the morale of the team?
Yeah, Kim's a funny one because she's so quiet,
mm-hmm.
But once you get to know her, she's a really funny kid. But I think to her teammates, that's what's funny about this. She's just Kim. She's not Kim with the Mexican national team. She's Kim. She's our buddy. She's who we hang out with. But they look at her, I think, and respect her so much. She leads by example. And you got to give Kim great credit. When she came here, she's a very good player. And we talked to her about being a better athlete, being better off the field, taking care of her body. And she's taken that on board, and she's gotten better. She was always a very good player. Now she's a good athlete. She's stronger. She's faster. And clearly that's helped her in her rise with Mexico. So, yeah, I think her teammates are just so proud of her. I hear it constantly when she comes back. They're just so excited. And, they see on the goal she scored on Twitter, they're all retweeting it and excited.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. I'm proud of her and happy for her for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think that this Oklahoma State team, from what I've noticed up in the press box watching, I think this team has a good mix of leaders and young talent. Because you got Kim Rodriguez, she's a leader.
Yep.
And you got JC Jones, she's just boosts everybody.
Yep.
And then, but then you got young talent like Olivia Dow. How did those young talents help out the team?
Well, Olivia's been fantastic. We knew as a recruit, you can always tell if a kid's talented, but what you don't know is how do they adapt to college, how do they adapt to new teammates, how hard do they work, new coaches, all the things that we ask them. She's been unbelievable. That kid, she hadn't scored in a couple of weeks or a couple of games, and it's like her world's ended. and we keep telling her, but your play is amazing. You're doing awesome. And she's the next one that has a chance to do something special, I think. She's just fit right in with our group, and it's great to see her grow as well. She's calling people out on the field if they're not doing the things she wants, and as a freshman, that's hard to do. But, her teammates recognize her talent, and I think they respond to that. So she's been fantastic. We have a freshman who got injured before she got here, Peyton Vincey. Peyton has actually played for Wales's full national team. She did that when she was 17. And so, nobody's seen her yet. But when she gets back healthy, it won't be until the spring. But we're excited to get Peyton out there with Olivia because we knew that could be kind of a dynamic duo coming in.
Got a little weapon in the back pocket with her.
Can't wait. I wish I had her now.
But going forward, going into these games, we'll get to see Olivia Dow a little more at Neil Patterson. We have a couple big games at Neil Patterson. We're going to have Kansas at Neil Patterson. We're going to have Bedlam at Neil Patterson. Which of these games are you most looking forward to?
Well, the way the Big 12 is with 10 teams, you play 5 home, 4 away, or you play 4 home, 5 away. So this is a year we only have 4 home games. So, we've got, in order, Kansas, Kansas State, and then Bedlam, and then Baylor. So right now, Kansas are top 10 RPI, OU's top 30-ish RPI, Baylor's top 30-ish RPI, and K-State's a little bit down, but they're a good team. So you look at those 3 home games, and those get you excited because they're opportunities. We think we have a chance to win those games. And if we do, they set us up nicely for postseason play. So it's a great opportunity. And then on the road, of course, you got to find a way to win games. We got Iowa State, West Virginia in one weekend. We got Texas, and then we got TCU and Tech. So it's going to be very challenging, but our job is just to prepare each week and try to get the kids as ready as we can do, and see where everything plays out. Come November, you're looking at it going, all right, where are we? Hopefully we won enough games.
Yeah, as of now, though, it's looking really good. Might be a little early, but what are your postseason expectations for this team?
Well, every year, we come into it, we want to finish as high in the Big 12 regular season as we can. If we can compete for a championship, so much the better. That puts you in the Big 12 tournament. That's step one. Then we try to win that championship because you get a ring and a trophy for doing that too. And then, of course, every year we want to be in the NCAA tournament. That's our goal. Last year at this time, we were sitting in a very similar spot. I think we got to 10-1-1 at one point. And then next thing you know, with injuries and other things, we weren't able to finish the season the way we wanted to. So, right now we're in a similar spot, but we also know we haven't achieved anything. We haven't won anything. We got to keep improving. And so that'll be a message we send to our team on Tuesday. You've done great. We're proud of you. However, remember last year, and let's not allow ourselves to be caught in that trap of thinking we're that good. Let's just go work hard, keep doing what we're doing, and keep winning games, hopefully.
Yep, I think I could see a little bit of that mindset after the SMU game. Talked to Yoakum after the game, and she was saying that after the game that this was a wake-up call, that Oklahoma State had been receiving a lot of recognition. They've been nationally ranked, but they said that Yoakum said that she was going to treat this SMU tie, which felt like a loss, really, that as a wake-up call. Do you feel the same way about that?
A little bit. I love that from the players. I think it's a very healthy, competitive attitude. I feel a little bit like that. I don't want to disrespect SMU because, what if they go on and win their league and make it to the Sweet 16? Then that becomes an unbelievable tie. So, they're a good team, and I don't think there's any disgrace in tying them. The manner in which it happened probably hurt Grace a little bit. That's okay. I'm fine with that. But, yeah, for me, it's not a wake-up call. It's just it's another reminder that we have to play our best every single minute of every single game if we want to succeed. And, we've done that at times this year, but there's been other games we've played well and then had letdowns. So I think we have to just refocus and say, okay, let's play as hard as we can all the time.
And now kind of stepping away from Oklahoma State soccer to a broader picture of soccer and football in the world.
Yeah.
One thing that's been bugging a lot of people in professional soccer is VAR.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on VAR and how it's affecting the game?
It's interesting because when they put it in for the Men's World Cup 2 summers ago, I thought it was great because the people running it got it. They were trained in it. They had practiced it. And so the delays were minimal, and more often than not, they got the right call. And I think ultimately, it's kind of like football instant replay. Ultimately, you want the right call on the field. Okay. Then fast forward a summer to the Women's World Cup. I thought it was a fiasco. The people, my understanding is the people who were used to implement it had like 6 weeks training instead of like a year's training that they had for the other World Cup. So you had officials who were not used to it trying to implement it. So you had 5-minute breaks in games, which was crazy. You had VAR calling rules that people didn't know were rules. So I thought they did a very poor job of educating people on what the rule was. So people were blaming VAR when really it was the rule that was the issue. So I think VAR is a concept. I love it because ultimately trying to get the call right is what we're all about. But it's got to be implemented in such a way that people, I'd find myself watching one of the Women's World Cup games and I get bored because I'm sitting there waiting for the game to restart after like 10 minutes and it's just annoying. So I think as a concept, it's great. Hopefully they get it where it's a little bit more streamlined. Like in the Premier League in England, I watch a lot of those games. They seem to get it right within about 30 seconds. And if they can get to that point, all for it.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the dispute happened with this week in the Premier League. I know Chelsea Football Club, they got a little hard done by it with offside by a couple centimeters, and then the Tottenham as well.
Yep.
And so I was talking to a friend about it, and he was saying how VAR is meant to get the clear and obvious issues out of the way.
Right.
And do you have a problem with VAR going to these nitpick thing where they draw like these little lines on the field to show, well, his arm was over his leg? Or
I mean, it's a tough one because if let's say the goal stands, well, then Liverpool are mad because the goal stood, and they're saying, look, his arm is 6 inches ahead, it's offside. So like I said, if the rule, whatever the rule is, as long as VAR gets that rule right, I'm fine with it. Again, I think some of the issues are the rules. Like, I have a problem with my arm being ahead of you and being offside. I'm not sure that should be the rule. But if that is the rule and VAR sees it, I don't have a problem with it.
And then do you think down the road, down through the years, do you think that we would ever see VAR goal line technology implemented in the college game?
So it's a cost issue, obviously. We have goal line technology, so I'll probably butcher the rule because we don't use it. A school, you can have video replay only on whether or not a goal was scored and the ball crossed the line. You can have it for fighting, trying to identify, if there was a problem. Trying to identify who should be carded, or if somebody was carded and they shouldn't have been carded, you can use it for that. But that's the only three. And if a school has it, both institutions, both coaches have to agree to use it prior to the game. So I would think we will get it at some point at Neil Patterson Stadium. I would like to have it. But right now, the way the rule's written, if we have it and I notify the other team, their coach could say, we don't want to use it. I don't know why they would, but they have the right to say that. But yeah, I would imagine the Big 12's talked about it. I would imagine sooner rather than later, the Big 12 will have it, but those are the only three things you can look at. So you can't look at offside. You can't look at handball. I'm not sure we get to that point anytime soon.
And then one thing I did notice about the college soccer games I've noticed compared to different is that the clock's a little different. They count down.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference about that?
It's funny. At first I thought it was weird, but now it actually makes sense to me because the whole injury time thing, the clock counts up to 45 and then, you have injury time and time added on for substitutions. That gets controversial. Man United used to call it Fergie time, right? It's like he's looking at the watch. So I kind of like it this way that when it hits 0, you're done. And and the ref can stop the clock and things like that. So to be honest, it was weird for me at first because I'm not used to it. But the more I think about it, I'm like, it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
And then final question for you here.
Sure.
You've had tons of players through the years come through this program. So when these women come through your program, what do they leave with when they leave with Colin Carmichael at OSU?
I think that's a better question for them. I hope they had a positive experience. And with so many kids, it's not always possible to keep everyone happy with playing time and all the other things. But I'd hope they had a positive experience. I hope they came in a better player. Left a better player than when they got here. And I hope maybe they matured and became a better person than they were when they came in, or a more mature person. And I hope they had a good time. I mean, I hate to see people unhappy. Unfortunately, my job sometimes creates that. But, we just want to have positive people around here. And, I hope that they would leave here going, that was a positive experience for me. I got an education. I had some fun. And even through the bad times, I enjoyed my 4 years at Oklahoma State.
Well, thank you so much for coming out here today. We're going to take it to a quick break. Reed and Logan, we'll be right back. You're watching One on One.
Perfect. Thanks.